Captain Sarah Chen was having a perfectly normal Tuesday morning when everything went sideways. She sat in her command chair aboard the Terran survey ship Wanderlust, watching the stars drift by through the main view screen while sipping her third cup of coffee. The ship was on a routine mapping mission in the outer rim of unexplored space, the kind of boring assignment that paid well but made everyone sleepy. "Captain, we're picking up some unusual readings," called out Lieutenant Rodriguez from the sensor station. He was a young engineer who got excited about everything, especially if it involved new technology or weird space phenomena. "Define unusual," Sarah said, not really worried. In 15 years of deep space exploration, she had learned that most unusual readings turned out to be space rocks or old probe signals. Multiple large ships, maybe 30 or 40 of them. "They're huge, Captain. Each one is at least 3 times. Bigger than us." Rodriguez's voice had that tone that meant he was trying not to sound scared. Sarah set down her coffee and walked over to look at his screen. The sensor readings showed a massive fleet of ships arranged in perfect formation. They were definitely artificial, definitely advanced, and definitely not human. "Well, that's interesting," she said calmly. "First contact protocols, people. Dr. Kim, wake up the linguistics computer. Jenkins, start recording everything. Martinez, see if you can figure out what kind of technology they're using." The bridge crew moved with practiced efficiency, even though none of them had ever actually encountered alien life before. They had trained for this moment, but everyone secretly thought it would never happen. 30 seconds later, the main screen lit up with an incoming transmission. The image showed a tall, imposing figure in elaborate armor covered with spikes and glowing symbols. The alien had 4 arms, pale blue skin, and eyes that glowed red with menace. Behind him stood rows of similar beings, all looking very serious and threatening. Primitive beings of the small vessel. The alien spoke in perfect English, his voice deep and commanding. "I am Admiral Zex Thera of the Eternal Dominion, flagship of the Galactic Empire. You have entered Imperial space without permission. This is a crime punishable by immediate destruction." The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the screen, processing what they had just heard. First contact with an alien civilization, and they were already being threatened. Sarah looked at the alien admiral for a long moment, then burst out laughing. "Oh my God, you're serious," she said, wiping tears from her eyes. "Jenkins, are you getting this? Please tell me you're recording." Admiral Zexathira's glowing eyes flickered with confusion. "You dare mock the Imperial Navy? We are the masters of 1,000 worlds. Entire species tremble at our approach." I'm sorry, Sarah said, trying to compose herself. "It's just, look at you. You look like someone took a Halloween costume and bedazzled it. What's with all the spikes? Are you going to a Space Gothic convention?" Dr. Kim, the ship's xenobiologist, leaned forward in her chair. "Captain, from an anthropological perspective, this is fascinating. The aggressive posturing, the elaborate costume design, the threats of violence as an opening gambit. It's classic intimidation behavior." "Thank you, Dr. Kim. Very educational." Sarah turned back to the screen where Admiral Zexathira was looking increasingly frustrated. "So, Admiral Spike-a-Lot, what exactly do you want from us?" "You will surrender your vessel immediately," the Admiral demanded. "Your crew will be processed for Imperial service or termination. Your technology will be claimed for the Empire." Lieutenant Rodriguez snorted with laughter. "Did he just say processed? What are we, cheese?" "I think he means enslaved," said Martinez from the weapons station. "Though honestly, looking at their ship design, I'm not sure they could process a sandwich correctly." On the screen, they could see other aliens in the background looking confused and whispering to each other. This was clearly not how first contact usually went for them. "Look, Admiral," Sarah said, settling back in her chair with her coffee. "I appreciate the whole Dark Overlord thing you've got going on. Really, it's very theatrical. But we're just out here mapping space rocks and drinking coffee. We're not really interested in being conquered today. You refuse? Admiral Zex-Thyra sputtered. No species has ever refused Imperial dominion. It is unthinkable. Well, think harder, said Dr. Kim cheerfully. We're humans. We specialize in doing unthinkable things. It's kind of our whole deal. Jenkins, the communications officer, raised his hand. Captain, should I be transmitting our location back to Earth Command? You know, just in case these guys decide to get aggressive. Already done, Sarah replied. Automated distress beacon went out the moment we detected them. Standard protocol. Admiral Zex-Thyra's expression shifted to something like panic. You contacted your homeworld? You have doomed your entire species. The Empire will crush your planet as an example to all who would defy us. The entire bridge crew burst out laughing this time. Even Quiet Martinez was chuckling while he ran diagnostics on their defensive systems. Oh, buddy, Sarah said, shaking her head. You really don't know what you're dealing with, do you? Earth isn't some peaceful little farming world. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. We got so good at killing each other that we had to invent new ways to do it. Your primitive weapons cannot stand against Imperial might, the Admiral declared, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. Primitive? Rodriguez looked offended. Captain, can I show him the specs on our point defense system? Just the basic stuff? Sure. Why not? Education is important. Rodriguez tapped his console and transmitted a simple technical schematic. On the alien ship, they could see technicians looking at displays and talking rapidly to each other in their own language. That's just our mining laser array, Rodriguez explained cheerfully. We use it to break up asteroids for mineral extraction. The actual weapons are classified, but they're much more interesting. Admiral Zex-Thyra was now visibly sweating, despite his intimidating appearance. Behind him, his crew was having what looked like an urgent discussion. You know what I think happened here? Dr. Kim said, conversationally. I think you guys have been bullying peaceful civilizations for so long that you forgot what actual military technology looks like. You've been using fear and intimidation instead of actual capability. That would explain the costume design, Martinez added. All flash, no substance. Sarah finished her coffee and stood up. Admiral, here's what's going to happen. We're going to continue with our mission. You're going to let us go. And maybe, just maybe, we can pretend this embarrassing little encounter never happened. The Empire does not negotiate with inferiors, Admiral Zex-Thyra said, but his voice shook slightly. That's your problem right there, Sarah replied. You assume everyone else is inferior. Classic mistake. Jenkins, open a channel to the rest of their fleet. Channel open, Captain. Sarah smiled at the screen. Attention, Imperial Fleet. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran survey ship Wanderlust. We're peaceful explorers who accidentally wandered into your space. We're happy to leave quietly, but if you insist on being hostile, well, she shrugged. We've dealt with bullies before. The transmission ended, leaving the aliens staring at a blank screen and the humans getting back to their routine duties. In the background, sensor readings showed the Imperial fleet maintaining position, but making no aggressive moves. Captain, Rodriguez said quietly, what if they actually attack? Sarah smiled and sat back down. Then they're going to learn why humans don't make good victims. Admiral Zex-Thyra stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his forearms clenched in frustration. Never in his 300 years of service had he encountered such disrespectful behavior. These humans had laughed at him. Laughed. The very thought made his glowing eyes burn brighter with anger. Admiral, his second-in-command spoke carefully. Perhaps we should consult with Imperial Command before proceeding. These humans seem different. Different. The Admiral's voice boomed across the bridge. They are primitives who stumbled into our territory. I will not be humiliated by such creatures. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare the annihilation cannon. We will demonstrate Imperial power. The weapons officer hesitated. Sir, should we not first attempt to destroy their ship? The annihilation cannon is designed for planetary bombardment. No, Admiral Zex-Thyra said firmly. These humans think our power is a joke. We will show them what true devastation looks like. Target the large asteroid in Sector 7. Full power. Aboard the Wanderlust, the crew watched with interest as the massive Imperial flagship began to glow with energy. Warning lights flashed across their sensors as the alien ship charged some kind of enormous weapon. Captain, Martinez called from his station. They're powering up something big. Energy readings are off the charts. Are they targeting us? Sarah asked, though she seemed more curious than worried. No, they're aiming at that asteroid cluster about 50,000 kilometers away. The big one in the middle. Dr. Kim clapped her hands together excitedly. Oh, they're going to show off. This is perfect. We get to see their weapon technology in action without anyone getting hurt. Jenkins, are you recording? Sarah asked. Everything, Captain. Full spectrum analysis. The Imperial flagship's main cannon fired, and space lit up like a small sun. A beam of pure energy lanced out and struck the targeted asteroid, which was roughly the size of a city. The rock vaporized instantly in a spectacular explosion of light and debris. The humans watched, in appreciative silence for a moment. Then Rodriguez started clapping. Not bad, he said. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, maybe 7 if they had added some color effects. The destruction pattern was efficient, Martinez noted professionally. Though I'm seeing a lot of waste heat and energy scatter. Their focusing system needs work. Dr. Kim was taking notes on her tablet. Fascinating. Pure energy projection, but the delivery system is remarkably inefficient. Look at how much power they had to charge up for that single shot. Admiral Zex-Thyra's triumphant expression faded as he listened to the human communications. They're analyzing our weapon? Sir, his tactical officer reported nervously. They're transmitting something to us. On screen, Captain Chen appeared. Again, this time holding what looked like a small computer tablet. That was pretty impressive, Admiral. Mind if I show you something? Before he could answer, she tapped her tablet and shared a video feed. The screen showed Earth's asteroid belt, where massive mining operations were in progress. Enormous machines were breaking apart asteroids with focused energy beams that looked remarkably similar to what the Imperial ship had just fired. This is our standard asteroid mining operation, Chen explained casually. We break up about 50 asteroids a day to keep up with demand for construction materials. The energy efficiency isn't great, but it gets the job done. The Admiral stared at the screen in growing horror as he watched dozens of human machines, casually destroying space rocks with weapons that matched his ship's annihilation cannon. Of course, this is just industrial equipment, Chen continued. Our actual military weapons are classified, but they're quite a bit more sophisticated. Better targeting, higher efficiency, much faster recharge times. Rodriguez leaned into the camera view. Hey, Admiral, your cannon has a really nice energy signature, but you might want to look into better particle focusing. We solved that problem about 50 years ago. I could send you some basic engineering papers if you want. Basic engineering papers? The Admiral's voice was barely a whisper. Dr. Kim joined the conversation. It's really quite impressive that you managed to build such a large weapon without solving the efficiency problems. Very retro, like building a spaceship out of wood. We don't build spaceships out of wood, Martinez pointed out. Exactly my point. Admiral Zex-Thyra turned to his chief engineer, his voice shaking with rage and confusion. Is this possible? Do they truly possess such technology? The engineer was studying the human video feed with growing excitement. Admiral, if these readings are accurate, their industrial mining equipment is more advanced than our primary weapon systems. The power-to-effect ratio alone is remarkable. But that's impossible. We are the masters of the galaxy. Our technology is supreme. Sir, the tactical officer interrupted. "We're receiving another transmission from the humans." Captain Chen's face appeared again, this time with what looked suspiciously like a smile she was trying to hide. "Admiral, I hope we didn't offend you with our feedback. We're always happy to share technical knowledge with new friends. In fact, would you like us to demonstrate our mining equipment?" "No!" the Admiral shouted quickly. "That is unnecessary." "Are you sure? We have a small asteroid processor on board for sample analysis. It's just a tiny one, nothing like what you saw in the video, but it might be interesting for you to see." The bridge crew of the Eternal Dominion looked at each other nervously. If their most powerful weapon was equivalent to human mining equipment, what were their actual weapons like? "Perhaps," the Admiral said carefully, "we could arrange a more formal meeting, a cultural exchange." "Oh, that would be wonderful," Dr. Kim's voice came from off-screen. "I have so many questions about your society. Like, why do you put spikes on everything? Is it religious, aesthetic, practical?" "The spikes represent the strength and power of the Empire," Admiral Zexthyra replied automatically. "But they don't actually do anything, right? They're just decorative?" They inspire fear in our enemies." Rodriguez laughed. "That's adorable. We used to do that too back in medieval times. Knights would put scary decorations on their armor to intimidate people. Then we invented guns and realized that looking scary wasn't as important as actually being dangerous." The Admiral felt a cold dread settling in his stomach. You no longer attempt to appear frightening?" "Why would we?" Captain Chen asked. "If someone is genuinely dangerous, they don't need to look the part. It's like the old human saying, 'Speak softly and carry a big stick.' What is this saying about sticks? It means that truly powerful people don't need to shout and threaten. They can be polite and calm because they know they can handle any situation that arises." Dr. Kim's voice added helpfully, "It's the difference between confidence and insecurity. Confident people don't need to prove anything to anyone." Admiral Zexthyra looked around his bridge at all the spikes, glowing lights, and intimidating decorations that covered every surface. For the first time in his career, he wondered if they made the Imperial Navy look strong, or if they made them look like they were trying too hard. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "should we continue with the demonstration?" The Admiral stared at the screen where the humans were cheerfully waiting for his response. They had just watched him fire his most powerful weapon and treated it like a mildly interesting science experiment. They had compared it to their mining equipment and offered to help him improve it. "No," he said finally. "Signal the fleet to maintain position, and perhaps we should invite them aboard for that cultural exchange." "Sir? I need to understand these humans better. Something is very wrong here, and I intend to find out what it is." On the human ship, Captain Chen turned to her crew. "Well, that went better than expected. Dr. Kim, prepare for a diplomatic mission. And someone remind me to have Rodriguez bring his engineering notes. I think these aliens might need some help with their technology." The shuttle bay of the Eternal Dominion was exactly what Captain Chen had expected. Massive, intimidating, and covered with completely unnecessary spikes. As the human delegation stepped off their small transport, they were greeted by an honor guard of Imperial soldiers in elaborate armor that looked like it weighed more than a small car. "Captain Chen," Admiral Zexthyra approached with what he probably thought was dignified authority. "Welcome aboard the flagship of the Imperial Navy." "Thanks for having us," Sarah replied cheerfully, looking around with obvious interest. "Wow, you really went all out with the evil Empire aesthetic. It's very committed." Dr. Kim was already taking pictures with her tablet. "This is fascinating from an architectural perspective. The psychological impact must be enormous on species that haven't encountered this design philosophy before." "The spikes serve a practical purpose," Admiral Zexthyra said defensively. "Which is?" Rodriguez asked, examining a decorative spike. That was purely ornamental. They represent our martial prowess. So they're just for show, Martinez concluded. That's actually kind of sweet, like putting racing stripes on a family car to make it look faster. The Admiral's glowing. Eyes flickered with irritation, but he maintained his composure. Perhaps you would like a tour of our vessel? Absolutely, Dr. Kim said enthusiastically. This is like visiting a museum of intimidation tactics. Do you have documentation on the design choices? I'd love to read about the cultural significance. As they walked through the corridors of the massive ship, the humans provided a running commentary that made the Imperial crew increasingly uncomfortable. Oh, look at these red lights, Jenkins pointed out. Very ominous, though from an ergonomic standpoint, red lighting makes it harder to read displays accurately. We used to do that in our old submarines until we realized it was causing more accidents than it was worth. The ceiling height is impressive, Dr. Kim added, but it's incredibly wasteful of internal space. You could fit 3 more decks in here with better architectural planning. Check out these computer interfaces, Rodriguez said, stopping at a control panel. Physical buttons for everything. That's very retro. We had systems like this about 200 years ago before we developed neural interfaces. Admiral Zexathira stopped walking. Neural interfaces? Oh, yeah, Rodriguez explained casually. Direct mind-to-computer communication. Much faster than manual input, and you can't make typing errors. These button systems are kind of charming, though, like antique cars, a young Imperial technician whispered to his supervisor. Are our computers actually primitive? Silence, the supervisor hissed back, but he looked worried. The tour continued to the bridge, where the humans were suitably impressed by the size and grandeur of everything. However, their compliments were not quite what the Admiral had hoped. This is amazing, Sarah said, looking around the vast command center. It's like someone took a perfectly functional starship bridge and decorated it for a Halloween party. The attention to detail is incredible. I love how you've prioritized style over functionality, Dr. Kim added. It takes real commitment to make every surface uncomfortable to touch. Those spikes on the command chair must make long shifts really challenging. They remind the commander of the burden of leadership, Admiral Zexathira said weakly. By causing physical pain? Martinez asked. That's actually kind of brilliant in a twisted way. Nothing says I'm in charge like sitting on a chair covered in spikes for 8 hours. The Imperial bridge crew was looking increasingly demoralized. Their pride and joy, the most advanced warship in the galaxy, was being casually mocked by aliens who treated it like an amusing curiosity. Perhaps, the Admiral said through gritted teeth, you would like to see our tactical systems? Sure, Sarah replied. Though I have to ask, do you really navigate using those manual star charts? We can see them from here. The navigation officer looked mortified. The charts provide proven reliability and backup systems in case of computer failure. But don't you have redundant computer systems? Rodriguez asked. And quantum backup storage? And emergency AI navigation protocols? Silence. You don't, do you? Dr. Kim said gently. You're using single-point failure systems for critical navigation. The Imperial crew exchanged worried glances. Their navigation systems, which they had always considered the height of technological achievement, were apparently obsolete by human standards. Let me guess, Martinez said, examining their weapons control station. Manual targeting for all weapon systems? No predictive firing algorithms? No automated threat assessment? Manual systems are more reliable, the weapons officer protested. They cannot be compromised by enemy interference. Unless the operator makes a mistake, Jenkins pointed out, or gets tired, or gets distracted, or dies. We solved those problems with redundant AI systems and neural backup operators. Admiral Zexathira was beginning to feel sick. Perhaps we should discuss military tactics. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds through superior strategy. Really? Dr. Kim perked up with interest. What's your standard approach? We appear in orbit with overwhelming force and demand surrender. When they refuse, we demonstrate our power by destroying military targets until they submit. The humans looked at each other in amazement. That's it? Sarah asked. That's your whole strategy? It has never failed. But what if they don't surrender? Rodriguez asked. What if they fight back effectively? What if they have better technology than you? That has never happened. Dr. Kim was taking rapid notes. So you've only encountered species that were significantly less advanced than you. No peer competitors. No technological equals. We are the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. Were, Martinez corrected quietly. You were the most advanced until today. The words hung in the air like a physical weight. For the first time, Admiral Zexathira truly understood what he was dealing with. These humans weren't just unimpressed by Imperial power. They were more advanced than the Empire in every meaningful way. Admiral, his communications officer called, out urgently. We're receiving reports from across the fleet. The humans they're broadcasting. Broadcasting what? Everything, sir. This entire encounter, other species are watching. Sarah smiled apologetically. Oh, sorry about that. We automatically record and transmit all first contact encounters for scientific analysis. It's standard protocol. I hope you don't mind. You're broadcasting this to your entire species and to anyone else who wants to watch. It's educational. Dr. Kim is going to write a paper about imperial psychology and social structure. This material is perfect for her research. Admiral Zexathira felt the universe spinning around him. Somewhere in the galaxy, other species were watching the mighty Imperial Navy being casually dismissed by a small survey ship. They were watching him struggle to maintain authority while aliens treated his flagship like a tourist attraction. Perhaps, he said carefully, we could discuss this matter privately? Of course, Sarah replied. But just so you know, we're still recording for safety reasons. First contact protocols and all that. The Admiral closed his glowing eyes and wondered if this was what defeat felt like. Not the crushing blow of superior force, but the slow, humiliating realization that everything he had believed about Imperial superiority was wrong. Dr. Kim, he said finally, what exactly will your paper conclude about Imperial psychology? Dr. Kim looked up from her notes with genuine sympathy. That you're a classic example of a civilization that achieved dominance through technological advantage and then stopped innovating because you didn't have to. It's not uncommon. We went through something similar ourselves. You did? Oh, yes. We called them the Dark Ages. Very educational period. We learned a lot about humility. Admiral, Zexathira suspected he was about to learn the same lesson. Grand Admiral Thexmore received the reports from Admiral Zexathira with growing disbelief and rage. The humans had humiliated an Imperial fleet, broadcast the encounter across the galaxy, and then simply left to continue their mapping mission, as if nothing had happened. Worse, their casual dismissal of Imperial power was causing unrest on dozens of worlds as subject species began questioning the Empire's authority. This cannot stand, the Grand Admiral declared to his war council. If we allow these humans to mock the Empire without consequence, our entire civilization will collapse. We must make an example that will be remembered for 1,000 years. The War Council, composed of the Empire's most experienced military, leaders nodded in agreement. They had built their power on fear and intimidation. If species stopped fearing them, they would lose everything. What do we know about their homeworld? Asked Admiral Kexathera, the Empire's strategic planning chief. The planet they call Earth, replied the intelligence officer. Standard Class M. World, approximately 4 billion years old. Population estimated at 8 billion. They appear to have a single unified government for space operations, though their planetary politics are more complex. Defenses? Unknown. Our long-range scans detected standard orbital installations, but nothing that appeared significantly advanced. They seem to rely primarily on their space fleet for protection. Grand Admiral Thexmore smiled coldly. Then, we will crush their world and use it as an example. Assemble the 3rd Imperial Battle Fleet. I want 200 ships, including the new Devastator-class dreadnoughts. Sir, isn't that excessive for a single planet? After what happened with Zexthera's fleet, I'm taking no chances. We will overwhelm them with such force that resistance will be impossible. 3 weeks later, the massive Imperial Armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The sight was genuinely impressive. 200 of the Empire's most advanced warships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls bristling with weapons and glowing with intimidating energy displays. "This is Grand Admiral Thexmore of the Galactic Empire," he broadcast toward Earth. "You have insulted the dignity of the Empire and spread lies about Imperial capabilities. Your world is condemned. Surrender immediately, and we will limit the destruction to your military installations. Resist, and we will scorch your planet bare." The response came from a pleasant-sounding woman with a slight accent. "Hello, Admiral. This is Admiral Patricia, Santos of Earth Defense Command. We've been expecting you. Before we get started, would you mind holding position for about 10 minutes? We're still getting the popcorn ready." "Popcorn?" Grand Admiral Thexmore looked confused. "For the show. Our entire planet is about to watch this on live broadcast. It's been promoted as the biggest entertainment event of the year. Really, you couldn't have timed it better." The Grand Admiral felt a familiar chill. These humans were treating an Imperial invasion fleet like some sort of amusement. "You have 10 minutes to surrender unconditionally. After that, we begin bombardment." "Oh, we don't really do surrender," Admiral Santos replied cheerfully. "It's not really our thing, but 10 minutes is perfect. That gives us time to finish the pre-show commentary." On the Imperial flagship, the tactical officer was studying his displays with growing concern. "Sir, I'm detecting some unusual readings from the inner system." "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures consistent with, well, with our own ships. But I don't see anything on visual." Grand Admiral Thexmore frowned. "Explain." "Sir, it's as if there are ships there, but they're not visible to our sensors. Stealth technology, perhaps?" The communication channel crackled to life again. "Admiral Thexmore, this is Admiral Santos again. We've finished our preparations. Are you ready to begin?" "Begin what?" "The demonstration. Oh, and just so you know, we've invited some observers. I hope you don't mind an audience." Suddenly, space around the Imperial fleet came alive with light. Hundreds of human ships materialized out of nowhere, their stealth fields dropping simultaneously. They had been hidden throughout the system, waiting. But these weren't the small survey ships the Empire expected. These were warships that looked like they had been designed by engineers who understood that function was more important than appearance. Clean lines, efficient designs, and weapon systems that hummed with barely contained energy. "How?" Grand Admiral Thexmore whispered. "Cloaking technology," Admiral Santos explained helpfully. "We've been using it for about 50 years. Very handy. For avoiding unnecessary conflicts, we prefer to be left alone." The Imperial sensors were going crazy as they tried to process what they were seeing. The human fleet was smaller in total numbers, but each ship was reading as significantly more advanced than anything in the Imperial Navy. "This is impossible," the Grand Admiral said. "No species has technology superior to the Empire." "Well, that's awkward," came another voice from the human fleet. "This is Captain Rodriguez, by the way. I was the engineer who offered to help you. Upgrade your weapons systems. The offer still stands, though I understand if you're feeling a bit embarrassed right now." "Sir," the Imperial tactical officer reported urgently, The human ships are moving into attack formation. Their targeting systems are locking onto our vessels. Return fire. All ships, open fire. The Imperial fleet unleashed a devastating barrage of energy weapons and missiles. Space lit up with the fury of 200 warships firing at once. It was the kind of display that had broken the will of countless species across the galaxy. The human response was educational. Every single Imperial shot was intercepted by defensive systems the Empire didn't even know existed. Point defense lasers, energy shields, and interception missiles created a web of protection around the human ships that made them essentially untouchable. Interesting, Admiral Santos commented, as if she was watching a training exercise. Your accuracy is actually quite good. The targeting systems need work, but the basic gunnery is solid. Then the humans fired back. It wasn't a dramatic barrage like the Imperial attack. Instead, each human ship fired a single, precisely targeted shot. The results were devastating. Imperial ships began exploding in perfect sequence as the human weapons tore through their defenses like paper. "How are they penetrating our shields?" someone screamed over the Imperial communications. "They're not penetrating them," replied a human voice that was clearly monitoring their transmissions. "We're bypassing them entirely. Your shield technology is about a century out of date." Within 5 minutes, half the Imperial fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships found themselves surrounded by human vessels that moved with impossible grace and fired with perfect accuracy. "This is Captain Martinez of the EDS Retribution," came another calm human voice. "Imperial fleet, you are ordered to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to resist will result in the complete destruction of your remaining ships." Grand Admiral Thexmore stared at his tactical displays in numb shock. The mightiest fleet the Empire had ever assembled was being systematically dismantled by human forces that treated the battle like a training exercise. "Sir," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving a personal message from Admiral Santos." On screen, a middle-aged human woman appeared, sitting calmly in what looked like a perfectly normal starship bridge. No spikes, no intimidating lighting, no dramatic decorations, just professional efficiency. "Admiral Thexmore," she said gently, "this doesn't have to continue. Your people are dying for no good reason. Surrender now, and we'll provide medical aid to your wounded and safe passage home for the survivors." "The Empire does not surrender," the Grand Admiral said through gritted teeth. "That's your choice," Admiral Santos replied. "But I should mention that we've been in contact with your subject worlds. Quite a few of them are very interested in what's happening here. Some of them are asking about their own independence." The Grand Admiral felt his world crumbling around him. Not only was the Imperial fleet being destroyed, but the very foundation of Imperial power was being undermined. If their subject species saw this defeat, the Empire itself might collapse. "What do you want?" he asked, finally. "Honestly, we just want to be left alone. We don't want your territory. We don't want to rule your people. And we don't want to destroy your civilization. We just want you to stop threatening people." "And if we refuse?" Admiral Santos smiled sadly. "Then we'll have to keep teaching you lessons until you learn. But I really hope it doesn't come to that. War is wasteful, and we have better things to do with our time." Grand Admiral Thexamore looked at his remaining ships, then at the human fleet that surrounded them. For the first time in Imperial history, they had encountered a force they couldn't defeat, couldn't intimidate, and couldn't understand. I surrender," he said quietly. The words that had never been spoken by an Imperial commander echoed across the galaxy, broadcast live to billions of beings who had never imagined the Empire could be defeated. The aftermath of the Battle of Saul, as historians would later call it, unfolded exactly as Admiral Santos had predicted. Within hours of Grand Admiral Thexmore's surrender being broadcast across the galaxy, rebellion broke out on 17 Imperial worlds. Within days, that number had grown to over 100. The humans, true to their word, provided medical aid to the wounded Imperial forces and safe passage home to the survivors. They also did something unprecedented in galactic history. They live-streamed the entire humanitarian operation, complete with commentary from Dr. Kim about the psychological and sociological implications of what they were witnessing. "What we're seeing here," Dr. Kim explained to her massive galactic audience, "is the collapse of a power structure based entirely on intimidation. The Empire never actually had to govern effectively because they ruled through fear. Once that fear was removed, the whole system became unsustainable." Captain Chen, now something of a galactic celebrity, was conducting interviews from the bridge of the Wanderlust. "The thing people need to understand," she told a reporter from the Centauri News Network, "is that this was never about humans versus the Empire. This was about bullies versus everyone else. We just happened to be the ones who weren't afraid of them." The Empire's response to the crisis was typically imperial: more threats and more violence. They dispatched fleets to suppress the rebellions, proclaimed martial law across their territory, and demanded immediate submission from all their subject species. It didn't work. For the first time in galactic history, the Empire's subject species had seen proof that the Imperial Navy could be defeated. More importantly, they had seen humans offering to help anyone who wanted to be free. The human response was characteristically practical. They established what they called the Freedom Broadcasting Network, which provided real-time communication support to rebellion movements across Imperial space. They also offered technical assistance, medical aid, and something the galaxy had never seen before: aid with no strings attached. "We're not trying to build our own empire," Admiral Santos explained in a broadcast that reached every inhabited world in the galaxy. "We don't want to rule anyone. We just want to help people rule themselves." The Empire's military leaders were baffled by this approach. They understood conquest, they understood exploitation, but they couldn't comprehend the concept of helping others without expecting something in return. "What do they gain?" Admiral Zexathyra asked during his debriefing on the Imperial homeworld. "What is their true motive?" The Imperial intelligence analysts had been studying human behavior for months and still couldn't find a hidden agenda. "They appear to be genuinely altruistic, sir. Their internal communications, which we've intercepted, confirm that they actually mean what they say." "That's impossible. No species achieves galactic-level technology without aggressive expansion and resource acquisition." "The humans did, sir. They appear to have developed their technology through cooperation rather than conquest. Meanwhile, the humans were busy doing what they did best: solving problems. They established refugee camps for species fleeing Imperial retaliation, shared agricultural technology with planets facing food shortages, and provided defense assistance to worlds that requested protection. But their most devastating weapon against the Empire wasn't military technology, it was their entertainment industry. Human comedians across the galaxy were having a field day with Imperial culture. Stand-up routines about evil empires with decorating problems became hugely popular. Satirical videos comparing Imperial technology to museum pieces went viral across dozens of species. Most damaging of all, humans started making parody recruitment. Videos for the Imperial Navy that featured actors in ridiculous spike-covered costumes failing to operate basic technology. Admiral Zexathyra found himself the unwilling star of several comedy shows after his encounter with Captain Chen went viral. His dramatic threats and confused responses to human technology were remixed into dance music and turned into memes that spread across the galaxy. "They're making jokes about us," he reported to the Imperial Council with obvious distress. "Billions of beings are laughing at the Imperial Navy." "It's worse than that," the Imperial propaganda minister added. "Our own citizens are sharing these videos. Imperial loyalty is collapsing because people think we're ridiculous." The final blow came when the humans announced their solution to the galactic political crisis, a massive diplomatic conference on a neutral world, where every species could send representatives to discuss forming a new galactic government based on cooperation rather than domination. The Empire was invited to participate, but only as one voice among many, with no special authority or privileges. "This is unacceptable," declared Supreme Emperor Vex Thul from his throne room on the imperial capital. "The Empire has ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. We will not be reduced to equals with our former subjects." His words were broadcast live to the galaxy, thanks to human transmission technology that the Empire couldn't block or interfere with. The response was immediate and devastating. Laughter. Species across the galaxy were literally laughing at the Emperor's declarations. Human social media platforms were filled with mocking commentary about failed empires throwing tantrums. Even some Imperial citizens were quietly sharing the jokes. 6 months after first contact, Admiral Zex Thyra found himself in an escape pod, drifting through space after his latest ship had been disabled by a rebellion fleet equipped with human-supplied weapons. As he waited for rescue, he listened to the galactic news broadcasts on his emergency radio. The Galactic Confederation officially voted today to offer humanitarian aid to Imperial refugees, the news anchor reported. Human representatives emphasized that this aid is available to all beings regardless of their political affiliations or past actions. In related news, the former imperial world of Kepler-7 has successfully transitioned to democratic self-governance with assistance from human political advisors. Their new constitution guarantees rights for all citizens and prohibits the use of spikes in government architecture. And in our entertainment segment, the comedy hit Humans Explain Things to Confused Aliens has been renewed for a second season. Tonight's episode features Earth comedian Jenny Martinez teaching former Imperial Admiral Zex Thyra how to use a computer mouse. Admiral Zex Thyra turned off the radio and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were still exploring space, still helping people, and still treating the collapse of the mightiest empire in galactic history like an interesting but not particularly surprising development. A rescue ship appeared on his sensors, not Imperial, but a humanitarian vessel from the Galactic Confederation. As it approached, he could see it was staffed by a mixed crew of species that had once been Imperial subjects. "Unknown escape pod. This is the rescue vessel Hope's Light," came a voice over the radio. "We're here to help. Do you need medical assistance? This is Admiral Zex Thyra of the Imperial Navy." There was a pause, then a different voice came on the radio. It sounded amused. "Oh, you're the guy from the videos. Don't worry, Admiral, we're still going to rescue you. The humans taught us that everyone deserves help, even people who used to be our oppressors." As the rescue ship pulled him aboard, Admiral Zex Thyra realized that this was perhaps the humans' greatest victory. They hadn't just defeated the Empire, they had taught the galaxy that there was a better way to live. The last emperor of the Galactic Empire officially abdicated 3 months later. His final statement, broadcast across the galaxy, was simple. "We surrender. Please teach us how to be better." Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen of the newly formed Galactic Exploration Service, responded personally to the Emperor's message. "Surrender isn't necessary. Just come to the table and let's figure this out together, and maybe lose the spikes. They really don't help with anything." The galaxy, for the first time in its recorded history, was at peace, and it had been achieved not through conquest or domination, but through the simple human philosophy of treating bullies like the confused, insecure beings they really were. Dr. Kim's book about the collapse of the Empire became a bestseller across 47 species. Its title was perfectly human: How to Defeat a Galactic Empire by Laughing at Them, a Study in Applied Psychology. The subtitle was even better: Why Being Terrifying is Less Important Than Being Competent.
Captain William Hayes looked at the old text on his screen. The small office on the United Earth Defense Force station felt even smaller as he leaned forward. His eyes were tired after hours of reading. Outside his window, stars shone against the blackness of space. "Computer, scroll down," he said. More text appeared. It was all about the Phantom Dreadnought. For many years, people talked about this ship. Some said it was the biggest warship humans ever built. Others said it had weapons that could destroy whole fleets. Most people thought it was just a story. Hayes rubbed his eyes. He had heard these stories since he was a boy. His grandfather told him tales about the mighty ship that vanished during the First War against the Crusade Empire. Back then, humans were just learning how to travel between stars. How could they build such an amazing ship? A soft knock on his door made him look up. "Come in," he called. The door slid open. Lieutenant Commander Susan Wright walked in carrying more data tablets. Her dark hair was tied back, and her uniform looked fresh despite the late hour. "Still at it, sir?" she asked. Hayes nodded. "These new files from the outer colonies are interesting." Wright placed the tablets on his desk and stood with her hands behind her back. She was the best tactical officer in the fleet, but her real skill was history. For years, she had collected every bit of information about the Phantom Dreadnought. "I think we're close," she said. The ship was real. Hayes leaned back in his chair. "Susan, even if it was real, it disappeared 200 years ago. What good does it do us now?" Wright tapped one of the tablets. "Look at this star chart." Hayes picked up the tablet. It showed a map of the Vega Expanse, a region of space full of gas clouds and dead stars. Strange marks highlighted several areas. "What am I looking at?" he asked. "Gravity readings," Wright said. "Something big is out there. Something that doesn't belong." Hayes studied the chart more closely. The readings showed something massive hiding in the clouds, but that region was empty according to all official maps. "It could be anything," he said. "A dead star, a cluster of asteroids." "Or a ship," Wright said. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "A very large ship." Hayes put down the tablet. "Even if you're right, even if the Phantom Dreadnought is out. There, what's the point? It's 2 centuries old. Our ships now are far better." Wright shook her head. "No, sir, they're not." She picked up another tablet and handed it to him. "This is from Dr. Kyle Bennett's research before he died. He was studying technology from that era. He believed the ship had systems we still don't understand today." Hayes read the notes. Bennett was a brilliant scientist who had died 5 years ago. His research suggested that early human expansion had created technology that was later lost or hidden. "This is hard to believe," Hayes said. 3 days ago, we lost contact with New Washington Colony," Wright said quietly. "The Cracks are pushing into our space again." Hayes felt a chill. The Craxan Empire had been quiet for decades. Some hoped they had given up their plans to take human worlds. Those hopes were now gone. "Admiral Carter wants to see you tomorrow," Wright continued. "I think she's going to order a full retreat from the outer systems." "Retreat?" Hayes stood up. "We can't just abandon those colonies." "We don't have a choice," Wright said. "Their ships outnumber ours 5-1. Their weapons cut through our shields like they're not even there." Hayes looked back at his screen. The ancient text seemed to mock him. A mythical ship that could change everything. A ghost story from humanity's past. "What if it's real?" he whispered. Wright stepped closer. "Sir, I've spent my career studying this. The evidence is there. The ship existed. And I believe it's waiting. In the Vega Expanse." Hayes walked to his window and looked out at the stars. Earth's defense fleet floated in the distance, ships moving slowly in their patrol patterns. Good ships, brave crews, but not enough to stop the Craxan. "The Admiral will never approve a search mission," he said. "Not with the enemy advancing." "She might," Wright said, "if you support my request." Hayes turned to look at her. "You've already asked?" Wright nodded. "I need your backing. You're a war hero. People listen to you." Hayes almost laughed. A war hero. He had been lucky, that's all. Right place, right time. He had led a small fleet against a Craxan scout force and won. Now people thought he was special. If we're wrong, he said, we waste time and resources we can't spare. And if we're right? Wright asked. Hayes looked back at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Craxan ships were moving toward human worlds. People would die. Colonies would fall. How soon can you be ready? He asked. Wright smiled. My team is all ready. Packing. We can leave on the Intrepid tomorrow. Hayes nodded slowly. I'll talk to Admiral Carter in the morning. After Wright left, Hayes sat down and continued reading the ancient files. Stories about a ship with weapons that could destroy fleets, shields that nothing could break, engines that bent space in ways humans no longer understood. His computer beeped with a new message. It was from Admiral Carter. Captain Hayes, please report to my office at 0700 hours. The Craxan have taken New Washington. They're moving faster than we thought. Hayes closed his eyes. They were running out of time. On his screen, an artist's drawing of the Phantom Dreadnought filled the display. It looked both beautiful and deadly. It's like a shark made of metal and energy. Are you out there? Hayes whispered to the image. And if you are, can you save us? He didn't expect an answer. But somewhere in the Vega expanse, hidden in clouds of cosmic dust, something waited. Something, old but not forgotten. A warship that was just a myth, until now. The UEDF cruiser. Intrepid moved slowly through the thick clouds of the Vega expanse. The ship's lights barely cut through the colorful dust that floated all around them. On the bridge, Captain Hayes stood with his hands behind his back. He had not slept much in the 3 days since they left Earth. Any signs of Craxan ships? He asked. The young man at the sensor station shook his head. No, sir. The nebula blocks most scans, but we're alone as far as I can tell. Hayes nodded. The nebula that hid them from the Craxan also made their search harder. They were looking for a needle in a very large, very cloudy haystack. Lieutenant Commander Wright worked at her station, checking and rechecking the gravity readings. We're getting closer, she said. The readings are stronger here. Chief Engineer. Alan Roberts looked up from his console. Captain, the nebula is hard on our engines. All this dust is clogging the intake filters. We should clean them soon. How long can we keep going? Hayes asked. 6 hours, maybe less, Roberts said. He was a short man with strong hands and a worried face. After that, we risk engine damage. Hayes looked at the main screen. The swirling colors of the nebula were beautiful, but they could also be deadly. Ships had been lost in the Vega expanse before. We'll continue for 4 more hours, he decided. Then we turn back if we find nothing. Wright looked up sharply. Sir, we need more time. The Phantom Dreadnought is out here, I know it. 4 hours, Commander, Hayes said firmly. I won't risk this ship and crew on a longer hunt. Communications Officer Diane Rodriguez suddenly sat up straight at her station. Captain, I'm picking up something strange. Craxan? Hayes asked, moving to her side. No, sir. It's... She adjusted, her controls, her fingers moving quickly. It's a signal, very weak, almost like a heartbeat. Wright hurried over. What frequency? It's not on any standard channel, Rodriguez said. I almost missed it. It's using an old Earth military band. No one has used this frequency in over a century. Hayes felt his heart beat faster. Can you trace it? Rodriguez worked for a moment, then nodded. Yes, sir. It's coming from deeper in the nebula. Coordinates 2 on 27 Mark IV. Helm, set course for those coordinates, Hayes ordered. Half speed. The Intrepid turned slowly, pushing deeper into the colored clouds. As they moved forward, the signal grew stronger. Sir, the sensor officer called. I'm getting a large mass reading ahead. Very large. Hayes looked at Wright. Her eyes were wide with excitement. Size comparison, Hayes asked. The sensor officer checked his readings. It's at least 3 times our size, sir. Maybe bigger. The bridge grew quiet. The Intrepid was already one of the larger ships in the Earth fleet. Something 3 times its size would be enormous. Cut engines, Hayes ordered. Let's drift in slowly. Lights at minimum. The ship slowed and the exterior lights dimmed. They moved forward in near darkness, the nebula clouds parting around their hull. Distance to object 1,000 meters, the helm officer reported. On screen, Hayes ordered. The main screen flickered, showing only swirling dust at first. Then something began to take shape, a dark shadow against the colorful background of the nebula. As they drew closer, the shadow grew larger. 500 meters, the helm officer said. The shadow on the screen was massive now. They could see straight lines and angles. Not a natural object. Something built. 200 meters. The clouds parted, and everyone on the bridge gasped. Floating before them was a ship unlike any they had ever seen. It was huge, with a long, sleek hull that reminded Hayes of ancient sea vessels from Earth. The ship was dark with no running lights, but its shape was unmistakably human in design. Its hull was marked with battle damage, large scars and burns that told of fierce fighting long ago. The Phantom Dreadnought, Wright whispered. Hayes couldn't speak. The ship they had been hunting, the ship most people thought was just a story, floated before them. Real. Massive. Silent. No signs of power, Roberts reported, checking his console. The ship appears dead. But it's sending that signal, Rodriguez said. Security Chief Gregory Phillips stepped forward. Sir, request permission to lead a boarding team. We should check it out up close. Hayes nodded slowly, still staring at the massive ship on the screen. Granted. Take Wright with you, and Dr. Lane from engineering. We need to know if that thing can still work. An hour later, Hayes watched as the boarding team, wearing spacesuits, floated across the gap between the ships. The team consisted of Phillips, Wright, Dr. Melissa Lane, and 3 security officers. They carried lights and tools. Team approaching the hull now, Phillips reported over the radio. Hayes watched on a small screen as the team reached the dark ship. Phillips found what looked like an airlock and began working to open it. This design is old, but I recognize the basic structure, he said. Working on the manual override now. After several minutes, the airlock door slowly opened. The team floated. Inside. We're in, Phillips reported. The ship has no gravity and no air. We'll need to keep our suits on. Proceed with caution, Hayes ordered. The team moved deeper into the ship, their lights showing long corridors and large rooms filled with equipment no one recognized. This technology, Dr. Lane said, her voice filled with wonder. I've never seen anything like this. It's beyond anything we have now. Wright moved ahead, following the ship's layout as if she knew where she was going. The bridge should be this way, she said. They found the bridge, a large room with stations for at least 20 crew members. Everything was dark and silent. No signs of the crew, Phillips reported. No bodies. Nothing. It's like they all just left. Dr. Lane moved to what appeared to be the main control station. There's still power somewhere, she said. That signal is coming from here. She began working with the controls, trying to understand the unfamiliar technology. After several minutes, she said, I think I can activate the emergency systems. Hayes listened as she worked. Suddenly, he heard a hum through the radio. Something's happening, Wright said. The ship is waking up. Lights began to flicker on the ancient ship. The boarding team watched in amazement as systems that had been silent for centuries slowly came to life. The low hum grew louder. Captain, you won't believe this, Dr. Lane said over the radio. The ship is powering up on its own. It's like it was just waiting for someone to find it. Hayes listened from the bridge of the Intrepid. Is it safe? So far, Phillips replied. But we should be careful. We don't know what this ship can do. Dr. Lane continued working at the main control panel. Her eyes were wide behind her helmet visor. The ship's computer is starting to respond. It's running some kind of check on all systems. Suddenly, the air around them began to change. Wright felt it first, a gentle pressure in her ears. The ship is creating atmosphere, she said. And I think gravity is coming online too. Slowly, the team felt their feet touch the floor. The floating dust in the air began to settle. Life support systems are working, Dr. Lane confirmed. Oxygen, Levels are rising, temperature increasing. Keep your suits on until we confirm it's safe, Phillips ordered. Back on the Intrepid, Hayes watched the readings from the old ship with growing excitement. Roberts, what are you seeing? Chief Engineer Roberts shook his head in wonder. Power. Readings are off the charts, sir. Whatever energy source that ship has, it's nothing like our current technology. It's much more powerful. Can we identify what kind of ship it is? Hayes asked. Any markings or identification? Wright's voice came over the radio. Captain, I found something. There's a name on one of the walls here. It says Defiance. This ship is called the Defiance. The Defiance, Hayes repeated. Not the Phantom Dreadnought after all, but a real ship with a real name. On the old ship, the lights grew brighter. The control panels were fully lit now, showing displays and readings that the team didn't understand. I think I've found the ship's log, Dr. Lane said. I'm trying to access it now. As she worked, a new sound filled the bridge. A soft hum different from the engines. In the center of the room, a circle on the floor began to glow. What's that? Phillips asked, moving closer with his hand on his weapon. The glow grew brighter, then stretched upward, forming a human shape. The light solidified into the image of a woman in a military uniform that none of them recognized. She looked real, but her body gave off a soft blue light. Hello, the figure said. I am Area, Advanced Reconnaissance Intelligence Array. Welcome aboard the UEDF Defiance. The team stared in shock. Area looked at each of them, her expression calm and friendly. You are the first humans to board this vessel in 217 years, she continued. Please identify yourselves and state your authorization. Phillips stepped forward. I am Security Chief Gregory Phillips of the UEDF cruiser Intrepid. This is Lieutenant Commander Susan Wright and Dr. Melissa Lane. We have no specific authorization. We found your ship by tracking gravity anomalies. Arya tilted her head slightly. I see. And the current status of Earth and its colonies? Wright moved closer. Earth is safe for now, but the outer colonies are under attack. The Kraxan Empire has returned. Arya's expression showed no surprise. As expected, the Defiance was created for this very purpose, to defend humanity when the Kraxan returned. Who built you? Dr. Lane asked. This technology is far beyond what we have now, let alone 2 centuries ago. I was built by the Advanced Defense Research Division, Arya replied, a secret group within the early UEDF. They made breakthroughs in several key technologies. But when the first war with the Kraxan was ending, there were concerns. What concerns? Wright asked. Some human leaders wanted to use these technologies for dominance over other human worlds, not just defense against aliens, Arya explained. So the scientists hid their most advanced work. The Defiance was sent away, programmed to wait until it was truly needed. And now? Phillips asked. Now I must verify that you are who you claim to be, Arya said. Please establish communication with your ship. Hayes listened as Phillips explained the situation. It seemed impossible. A ship with an artificial intelligence waiting all this time. Dr. Lane, can you confirm what this Arya is saying? Hayes asked. Is this ship really from 2 centuries ago? Lane looked around at the technology. It's hard to believe, sir, but yes. The design elements match that era. But the technology, it's beyond anything we have now. Whoever built this ship was working with knowledge that was lost to the rest of humanity. Arya spoke again. I have scanned your ship, Captain Hayes. Your vessel has UEDF signatures. You appear to be genuine Earth forces. I will share more information. On the main screen, images appeared showing the Defiance's systems and capabilities. The boarding team gasped as they saw weapons and defenses that seemed impossible. The Defiance was designed to stand against an entire Kraxan fleet, Arya explained. My weapons can penetrate their strongest shields. My own defenses can withstand their heaviest attacks. This could change everything, Wright whispered. With this ship, we could stop the Kraxan advance. Dr. Lane studied the ship's systems with growing excitement. The power source is amazing. It's some kind of fusion system, but far more efficient than anything we have. As they talked, a new alert sounded on the Intrepid. Rodriguez looked up from her station, her face pale. "Captain," she called. "We have multiple ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel nearby. They're Craxan warships." Hayes felt cold fear in his stomach. "How many?" "5 cruisers and at least a dozen smaller vessels," Rodriguez replied. "They're heading straight for us." Hayes turned back to the communication with the boarding team. "Phillips, we have company. Craxan ships are approaching. We need to leave now." On the Defiance, Phillips looked at Arya. "Can this ship move? Can it fight?" "The Defiance is fully operational," Arya replied, "but I need a command crew to function at full capacity." Wright stepped forward. "We can be that crew. We need to move fast." Phillips nodded. "Captain Hayes, we're staying on the Defiance. If this ship is as powerful as it seems, we stand a better chance here than on the Intrepid." Hayes considered. The Intrepid was a good ship, but it couldn't stand against that many Craxan vessels. "Understood," he finally said. "But I'm coming over. Rodriguez, you have command of the Intrepid. Get the ship out of here as soon as possible." "Sir?" Rodriguez sounded surprised. "That's an order. Take the Intrepid and run. Head back to Earth. Tell them what we found." Hayes left the bridge quickly. 5 minutes later, he was in a spacesuit, crossing the gap between the ships. Behind him, the Intrepid was already turning to leave. The Craxan ships were getting closer. Soon they would be in weapons range. Hayes reached the Defiance and hurried to the bridge. Wright, Phillips, and Lane were already at control stations with Arya guiding them. "Welcome aboard, Captain," Arya said. "Please take the command chair. The enemy will be in range in 3 minutes." Hayes sat in the large chair in the center of the bridge. It felt strange, but somehow right. "What do we do?" he asked. "We fight," Arya replied simply. The Defiance was built for this day. Around them, the ancient warship hummed with power, awakening fully after centuries of sleep. The legend was now reality, and soon the Craxan would learn to fear it. The Intrepid moved quickly away from the Defiance, its engines pushing hard. Captain Hayes watched it go from his new position on the ancient warship's bridge. He hoped Rodriguez could get the crew to safety. "Craxan ships will be in firing range in 1 minute," Dr. Lane reported from her station. She had quickly learned how to read the Defiance's sensor displays with Arya's help. "Do we run or fight?" Phillips asked, his hand hovering over what appeared to be weapon controls. Hayes looked at Arya's glowing form. "What are our chances?" "The Defiance was built to defeat Craxan ships," Arya replied. "My weapons and shields are far beyond what they will expect. However, I cannot guarantee victory without a properly trained crew." Hayes nodded. "We'll have to learn fast." He turned to Wright. "You've studied this ship for years. Any suggestions?" Wright's eyes were bright with excitement, despite the danger. "If the stories are true, this ship has weapons that can bend gravity itself." She looked at Arya. "Is that right?" "Yes," Arya confirmed. "The primary weapons are gravitational lances. They create focused gravity wells that can crush enemy ships. The secondary weapons are phase shift torpedoes that can bypass most shield types. 30 seconds to enemy contact," Lane announced. Hayes made his decision. "We fight. Arya, help us use the weapons. Phillips, you're on offensive systems. Wright, you handle defense. Lane, stay on sensors and keep us informed." "What about you, Captain?" Wright asked. "I'll handle ship movement," Hayes said, studying the controls in front of him. They were different from modern ships, but Arya was quickly guiding his hands. "Incoming transmission from the lead Craxan ship," Lane reported. "Put it through," Hayes ordered. A harsh voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, this is Commander Vorax of the Craxan Imperial Fleet. Your presence in this sector is a violation of our territory. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." Hayes looked at his small crew, then at Arya. "Tell them who we are." Arya nodded and opened a channel. "Craxan vessels, this is the Earth Defense Force warship Defiance. We recognize no Craxan claim to this or any human territory. Leave now, or face the consequences." There was a moment of silence. Then laughter came over the speakers. One ancient human ship against 5 Craxan cruisers? Your bravery is amusing, but foolish. Prepare to die. The channel closed. Seconds later, green energy beams shot from the lead Craxan ship. Incoming fire, Lane called out. Shields, Hayes ordered. Wright pressed several controls. A soft hum filled the ship, and on the screen, they could see a blue field form around the Defiance. The Craxan beams hit the shield and seemed to vanish. No damage, Wright reported, sounding amazed. Shields are holding at full strength. Arya's expression remained calm. The Defiance's defensive systems are significantly advanced compared to current technology. These Craxan weapons are not a serious threat. The Craxan ships fired again, this time all 5 cruisers shooting at once. Again, the shields absorbed the attacks with no visible strain. They're surrounding us, Lane reported. The smaller ships are moving to flank positions. Hayes studied the tactical display. The Craxan were using standard attack formation, expecting an easy victory against what they thought was a single outdated human vessel. Time to show them what this ship can do, Hayes said. Phillips, target the nearest cruiser with the gravitational lances. Phillips worked the weapons console with Arya guiding him. Target locked. Fire, Hayes ordered. From the front of the Defiance, a beam of blue-white energy shot out. It didn't look like a normal weapon beam. The space around it seemed to bend and twist. When it hit the Craxan cruiser, the effect was immediate and shocking. The cruiser didn't explode. Instead, it began to collapse inward, as if being crushed by an invisible hand. The hull bent and twisted. In seconds, the massive ship had been compressed to half its original size. By the stars, Wright whispered. On the screen, they could see the remaining Craxan ships paused their advance. They clearly hadn't expected this. What just happened? Hayes asked, staring at the crushed enemy ship. The gravitational lance creates a temporary but intense gravity well, Arya explained. It essentially increases the gravity in a localized area by a factor of several thousand. No known hull material can withstand such force. The Craxan recovered from their surprise quickly. The remaining 4 cruisers began firing all their weapons. The smaller ships moved in, launching torpedoes. Multiple incoming attacks, Lane reported. Maintain shields, Hayes ordered. Phillips, prepare phase shift torpedoes. Target the lead cruiser. As the Craxan weapons hit the Defiance's shields, the ancient ship remained steady. No damage registered. On any systems. Phase shift torpedoes ready, Phillips reported. Fire, Hayes ordered. Small objects launched from the Defiance. They moved slowly at first, then accelerated toward the lead Craxan cruiser. The cruiser raised its shields to maximum power, but the torpedoes did something impossible. They seemed to flicker, becoming partly transparent. Then they passed through the Craxan shields as if they weren't there. When they reached the cruiser's hull, they detonated. Explosions tore through the enemy ship from the inside out. In moments, the mighty Craxan cruiser was breaking apart, its engines dead. Now the remaining Craxan ships began to pull back. Their confidence was gone, replaced by confusion and fear. They're retreating, Lane reported. Not all of them, Phillips said, pointing to 2 cruisers that were moving to a new attack position. Those 2 are preparing to fire again. They're adapting their strategy, Arya noted. They're trying to find a weakness in our defenses. Hayes considered their options. Can we take them all? Yes, Arya said simply. But it would be more efficient to demonstrate our full capabilities now. It may prevent further bloodshed. Hayes nodded. What do you suggest? The Defiance has one more primary weapon system, Arya explained. The temporal disruptor. It creates a field that distorts time within a limited area. It will not destroy the enemy ships, but it will disable them completely. Do it, Hayes ordered. Arya took direct control of the weapon systems. The Defiance hummed with power as energy built up within its core. Then a pulse of energy expanded outward in a sphere. It was nearly invisible, just a slight ripple in space. When it touched the Craxan ships, they seemed to freeze. Not just stop moving, but truly freeze in time. What happened to them? Wright asked. They are experiencing time at approximately 1/10,000th the normal rate, Arya explained. For them, a single second will take nearly 3 hours to pass. The effect will fade in about 30 minutes of our time. By then we can be long gone. Hayes stared at the frozen ships. With a weapon like that, the Defiance could defeat entire fleets without destroying them. Open a channel to all Craxan ships in the sector, he ordered. Arya nodded and established the connection. This is Captain William Hayes of the Earth Defense Force warship Defiance, Hayes said, his voice steady. As you have seen, your weapons cannot harm us and we can defeat you without effort. Return to your territory immediately. Tell your leaders that Earth space is now protected by the Defiance. Any further aggression will be met with force. He closed the channel and turned to his small crew. Their faces showed a mixture of awe and relief. Will they listen? Phillips asked. Some will, Hayes said. Others will need more convincing. He looked at Arya. Can we reach Earth quickly? We need to inform the Defense Force about what we've found. The Defiance's propulsion system can get us to Earth in less than a day, Arya replied. I recommend we leave now before more Craxan ships arrive. Hayes nodded. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. As the Defiance turned away from the frozen Craxan ships, Hayes felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For years, humanity had been fighting a losing battle against the Craxan. Now everything had changed. The warship that everyone thought was just a myth had shattered the battlefield. And this was just the beginning. News of the Defiance spread quickly through human space. The Intrepid had returned to Earth a day earlier, with Officer Rodriguez telling an amazing story about finding the legendary warship. Many people didn't believe her until the Defiance itself appeared in Earth orbit. The massive ship caused a stir as it moved into position above Earth. Defense stations went on alert until Captain Hayes identified himself and explained what had happened. Admiral Carter waited in the main docking bay of Earth Defense Headquarters. Her face was stern, but her eyes showed excitement as Hayes and his small crew stepped off the shuttle from the Defiance. Captain Hayes, she said formally, I understand you found something interesting in the Vega expanse. Hayes smiled slightly. Yes, Admiral. Something very interesting. They moved to a large meeting room where the highest-ranking officers of the Earth Defense Force had gathered. The room fell silent as Hayes and his crew entered. All eyes were on them. Hayes stood at the front of the room. Beside him, Wright set up a display showing images of the Defiance and its capabilities. Arya's data core had been temporarily connected to the meeting room system so she could join them as a hologram. Ladies and gentlemen, Hayes began, the stories were true. The Phantom Dreadnought exists. Its real name is the Defiance, and it has just single-handedly defeated 5 Craxan cruisers without taking any damage. Murmurs filled the room. Admiral Carter raised her hand for silence. Explain how this is possible, she said. Our best ships can barely stand against 1 Craxan cruiser. Hayes nodded to Arya, who stepped forward, her holographic form glowing softly. I am Arya, the artificial intelligence of the Defiance, she said. Our ship was built 217 years ago by a secret research division within the early Earth Defense Force. They made breakthroughs in several key technologies, including weapons, shields, and propulsion. The officers looked skeptical. General Frank Wilson, head of Defense Technology, spoke up. That's impossible, he said. We didn't have that level of technology 2 centuries ago. We don't have it now. They did, Wright said firmly, and they hid it to prevent misuse. The Defiance was sent away to wait until humanity truly needed it. She looked around the room. Like now. Arya continued. The Defiance is only one part of what was created. There are other ships and facilities hidden throughout human space. The locations of these assets are stored in my memory. They too can be recovered. The room erupted in excited talk. Admiral Carter had to call for order several times. If what you're saying is true, she said when the room quieted, this changes everything. The Craxan have taken 6 outer colonies in the past month. We were preparing for a full retreat from the border regions. There will be no retreat, Hayes Dyer said confidently. With the Defiance leading the way, we can push the Kraxon back. And once we recover the other hidden assets, we can ensure they never threaten human space again. Dr. Lane stepped forward. I've studied the Defiance's technology. It's decades ahead of what we have now. But I believe we can adapt some of it to our existing ships. We can make our fleet stronger. The next several days were a whirlwind of activity. The Defiance remained in Earth orbit while teams of engineers and scientists studied its systems. Arya shared what she could, though some of the most advanced technology was still hard for modern scientists to understand. Meanwhile, reports came in of more Kraxon attacks. 3 more colonies had fallen. The enemy was growing bolder, pushing deeper into human territory. They think we're weak, Hayes told Admiral Carter during a strategy meeting. We need to show them we're not. Carter nodded. The Defense Council has approved your plan. The Defiance will lead a counterattack against the Kraxon forces at New Washington Colony. It's our chance to show what this ship can really do. A week after arriving at Earth, the Defiance prepared to leave. It was no longer crewed by just 4 people. 50 of the best officers and crew in the Earth fleet had been quickly trained to operate the ancient warship. Hayes remained in command, with Wright as his second in command. Dr. Lane led the engineering team and Phillips headed security. As they prepared to depart, Hayes stood on the bridge looking at the Earth on the main screen. The planet looked peaceful from space. He wanted to keep it that way. All systems ready, Captain, Wright reported. The fleet is standing by. Around the Defiance, 20 ships of the Earth Defense Force waited. They weren't as powerful as the ancient warship, but they would follow where it led. Open a channel to all ships, Hayes ordered. When the channel was open, he spoke clearly. This is Captain Hayes. Today we begin the first step in taking back what is ours. The Kraxon thought they could push us out of space. They thought we were weak. Today they learned differently. He paused, then continued. The Defiance was built for this moment. It waited centuries for the time when humanity would need it most. That time is now. Follow us, and we will show the enemy why humans should never be underestimated. The small fleet moved away from Earth, heading for the jump point that would take them to New Washington Colony. As they traveled, Arya approached Hayes. You seem confident, Captain, she observed. Hayes nodded. The Kraxon don't know what's coming. They've never faced anything like the Defiance. True, Arya agreed. But be cautious. They will adapt. They will learn. So will we, Hayes replied. We have more surprises for them. Once we recover the other hidden ships and facilities you told us about, we'll be even stronger. 2 days later, they arrived at New Washington. The once beautiful colony world now had Kraxon ships in orbit. The alien invaders had set up bases on the surface and were stripping the planet of resources. Kraxon fleet detected, reported the sensor officer. 5 cruisers and 15 smaller vessels in orbit. They've seen us. They're moving to attack positions. Hayes took a deep breath. This was it. The real test of what the Defiance could do. Battle stations, he ordered. All ships form up behind us. We'll lead the charge. As the Earth fleet moved forward, a transmission came in from the lead Kraxon ship. Human forces, this is Commander Vorax. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now or be destroyed. Hayes recognized the voice. It was the same commander from their first encounter. Commander Vorax, Hayes replied. We've met before, in the Vega Expanse. Your memory might be a bit foggy since you spent a few hours frozen in time. There was a pause before Vorax responded, his voice now less confident. The ship from the nebula. You dare to return with such a small fleet? We dare, Hayes said simply. This is your only warning. Leave human space now or face the consequences. The response was immediate. The Kraxon ships opened fire, their green energy beams cutting through space toward the Earth fleet. Shields up, Hayes ordered calmly. All ships, stay behind the Defiance until we clear a path. The ancient warship moved forward, its advanced shields absorbing the Kraxon attack without effort. Then it began to fight back. The battle that followed would become legendary. The Defiance moved through the Kraxon fleet like a knife through paper. Its gravitational lances crushed 2 cruisers. Its phase shift torpedoes destroyed 3 more. The smaller Crusade ships tried to flee, but were caught by the Earth fleet following behind. Within an hour, it was over. The Crusade fleet that had taken New Washington was completely destroyed or captured. Not a single Earth ship was lost. As the Defiance moved into orbit around the freed colony, cheers erupted from the planet below. The human colonists had watched the battle from the surface. They had seen the legendary warship in action. Incoming transmission from the colony, Wright reported. "They're calling you the Liberator, sir." Hayes shook his head. "It's not me. It's this ship, the Defiance. It's lived up to its name." Over the next few weeks, the pattern repeated. The Defiance led the Earth fleet from colony to colony, driving the Crusade forces back. With each victory, more Earth ships joined them. The momentum had shifted. 2 months after finding the ancient warship, Hayes stood on the bridge looking at a map of human space. All the lost colonies had been retaken. The Crusade had been pushed back beyond the original borders. "Message from Earth, sir," Wright said. "Admiral Carter sends her congratulations. The Crusade have requested peace talks." Hayes nodded. "They've learned their lesson. For now." "And the other hidden assets?" Wright asked. "Have we found them all?" 3 more ships and 2 research facilities," Hayes replied. "Arya says there are still more out there." He smiled slightly. "Our ancestors left us quite a legacy." As the Defiance continued its patrol of the border, the legend of the warship grew. What had once been dismissed as a myth had become the symbol of humanity's strength and resilience. The ship had waited patiently for centuries, hidden but not gone, ready for the moment when it would be needed most. The Defiance had shattered not just the battlefield, but the limits of what humanity thought possible, and it was just the beginning.